You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today, we are mainly going to be focused on the wellness portion of wellness and weight loss, like we typically are. But one of the reasons why you might be holding onto the weight, especially toxic water weight, feeling swollen, could be because of this thing called mold toxicity. It's beginning to gain more momentum. And whenever I see things begin to gain more momentum, I want to make sure that I bring you a show that really breaks it down so that, one, you don't feel overwhelmed as to what to do or that anything terrible is going to happen to you, but also so that we can really see, what's hype and what's fact. Because sometimes, what we do in the natural health field, not with, I believe, true integrative health practitioners and functional medicine doctors, we're not looking to hype it up. What I think the majority of practitioners who are trying to do good work do is this, is they bring it up to bring public awareness. But if you only bring it up to bring public awareness and scare people with all of the symptoms that they might be suffering from and don't give them an action plan as to what to do, I believe you're doing them a disservice. Because that is hype, that's media-based, that's pharmaceutical, that's all of that. We don't need to hype that up. What we need to do is say, yes, these symptoms are real. And they're leading to dis-eases of the body. But their good news is this, that we know how to fix it, we know what mold is, and we know how to eradicate it, even for those people that are more genetically susceptible, such as me. So I want to take you through that today. I did a previous mold-based protocol. I'm absolutely going to link that up today in these show notes so that you can go back and you can listen to that specific show. On that show, I really broke down what is mold toxicity, and it's something that you need to be worried about. Now, one of the things that I did on that show was I actually took you through the mold-based symptom questionnaire. This was episode 992. At any time, you can always go back to stephencabral.com/podcasts. And on that page, you can search all the previous podcasts. You can use a search bar to type in, say you wanted to type in mold toxicity. If you typed in mold toxicity, you would find episode 992. Now, on that show, I took you exactly through what mold was, how to test for mold, where it's most prevalent, and the mold-based questionnaire. I'm not going to link up the mold symptoms quiz today, but you can go to stephencabral.com/992 for that. And of course, I will link all of that up here today in the show notes. Now, today's show notes are at stephencabral.com/1048. 1048, that will have everything that you need right in that today. So we're going to go over first some of the symptoms because you wouldn't know that you had mold. Honestly, the truth is this. You just would never have any idea that you had mold toxicity unless you overtly saw mold growing in your home, like black mold. But that's not the majority of people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through how mold hides itself, some of the symptoms that it shows up as, and now that you have that information, I will give you exactly how to test your home, use an air filter, run fungal-based tests, all of those things as well. So you'll have everything you need in this podcast. But before we get started, just because it is going to be an intense podcast, and my team said you cannot forget to mention this, because I do. Honestly, I get wrapped up in the topics. And again, I want to bring this to podcast listeners. That's what excites me, is that you'll always hear about it first. This is because of you, because of what you asked us for. We are now launching that in the beginning of the new year, taking pre-sale now on the chocolate Dr. Cabral Detox. So I'm excited to bring that to you. That's over at equilibriumnutrition.com. And again, I'm not someone that hypes these things up. If you know about a functional medicine detox and you've seen the ingredients that we provide, there's simply nothing better out there right now. There just isn't. And the truth is this, that we made this specifically for our private practice and we saw how well it worked. Well, after 4 years of using it in our private practice, this is now over 4 years ago, We launched this to people. Now we offer it to 20 countries all over the world. And now just besides the vanilla, it comes in the delicious chocolate flavor for those people looking to use chocolate. All right. If you want to hear more about that, just head on over to equilibriumnutrition.com and you can certainly find the chocolate detox over there. All right, let's get back to the topic at hand because I want to take you through a lot of these mold-based symptoms. And if you are feeling anything such as post-nasal drip, or you have allergies or asthma, anything upper respiratory, okay, that's really important to understand is because a lot of upper respiratory recurring sinusitis can be mold-based issues. And that's because yeast and fungus can live in the nasal passages, especially if you've been given antibiotics before for upper respiratory conditions. The issue is this. When you take antibiotics, you're basically saying, okay, we'll kill the bacteria, but we're not killing the mold, and we're not killing the fungal overgrowth or candida. And that is allowing that then to proliferate. And that includes your nasal passages. That is so overlooked in conventional medicine right now, even natural health. No one's ever talking about how candida and yeast can grow in the nasal passages as well. So if you're feeling like your sinuses are blocked, you have congestion, any type of brain fog or tearing eyes, blurred vision, if your muscles are feeling weak, if you have kind of shortness of breath or flu-like symptoms or inflammation or sensitivity to light, multiple chemical sensitivities. If you're having difficulty remembering words, you or your children, really, really important. Difficulty focusing, any type of abdominal-based pain or fibromyalgia. If you get any, I would even say tinnitus, ringing in the ears. If you have any type of really highs and lows in terms of mood swings, increased thirst because mold can affect the hypothalamus, pituitary adrenal axis as well. Any type of metal-based taste in the mouth, lightheadedness or dizziness. If you get sensitive around odors, odor-based sensitivity. If you feel worse, I'm going to be talking about this on rainy days, right? Or worse on rainy days or worse after alcohol. I'll be bringing that up again. If you live in a poorly ventilated home, or you also have an old basement that could be damp and wet, right? Any of those things. Or has your house ever been through a flood? Or have you had any water-based damage? These are all possibilities for you to be dealing with mold toxicity-based issues. Well, one thing I'd love to bring you now is this. What is this thing we call mold? Let's figure this out. So we have a bunch of different types of molds. We're going to start with some of these outdoor molds. And remember, mold is essentially a fungus. And that can include all types of mushrooms and things like that as well. Now, there's obviously 100,000 plus different types of fungi, right? But we're talking about these are pathogenic-based molds. So there are allergenic molds that many people suffer from that can lead to asthma or allergies. This would be an environmental skin test if you've ever done that before, a blood test, you can test for those, right? So children, very susceptible to mold-based issues and adults as well. There's no doubt about it, especially those with genetic susceptibility. Right? But don't let genetics be your excuse on this, right? I mean, you can be like me. You can be more sensitive to mold. You can have a poor time removing it from your body, but let's not allow that to really dictate our health. Another form, pathogenic-based molds. Okay, these are extremely important. One of the ones that I test for all the time is this thing called Aspergillus. Aspergillus fumigatus, I believe, is the actual pronunciation of that second word. And the reason why this is most important is because those people with chronic bronchitis or asthma or lung-based conditions absolutely have to test for this. Because this Aspergillus-based form of mold can actually proliferate in the lungs, especially with those people that are a little bit immunocompromised, that are imbalanced between Th1 and Th2-based immunity, and that may even be suffering from forms of adrenal-based fatigue and adrenal-based issues. And remember, last week I went over the different forms, the different symptoms of adrenal-based fatigue. I hope you tuned into that. That was episode 1040. So the last form of mold that I'll be talking about before the indoor mold, so the outdoor mold, the more natural-based molds that, again, are still dangerous, right? Still dangerous. These are called toxic molds. And these are toxigenic molds if you look them up from a medical-based standpoint. Now, these are the ones that can actually imbalance your immune system and may potentially lead to certain forms of cancer. Because cancer right now is being linked, especially in the natural health world, with fungal-based overgrowth, mold-based overgrowth, leading to cancer-based proliferation. This is really important because these are the type of aflatoxins, right? Aflatoxins, mold-based spores in the air that you can just breathe in. Now, they're also located on certain types of foods. Foods kept in big silos where there might be some dampness. It could be on certain types of grains. It can especially be, though, on peanuts or sometimes coffee, right? So we have grains, we have peanuts, and we have coffee beans that can be kept in huge, huge silos. Now, it just takes a little bit of dampness for this mold to begin to grow. Well, what does it look like? Well, a lot of times mold is microscopic. We think of it as, oh, I see mold growing on my shower curtain. I see mold growing on my tile, or I see mold growing up the wall after a flood. Well, that's a different story. I mean, that is mold to a very high degree. But most mold is invisible, right? It's microscopic. It's in the air, right? They're just spores in the air. So much so, and I want to give you some of these statistics because it's completely insane in my opinion. And I want to give this, it's very timely for me because my wife and I do not know. But my wife got a little bit of a rash right on the side of her lip, which is very, very interesting. And I got a rash on the left side of my eye this holiday season. Now, we don't know what it was from. Mine happened first, hers a couple days later. And I was blaming it on certain food that I eat that was just basically something not typically in my diet. If you heard last week, it was some orange zest, some lemon zest, but I also did a couple things different that I don't typically do. But at the same time I went back, I always look at my variables, right? So that's what I do in my practice. The way that I tell people that we're going to help them is we're going to look at variables. There's only so many variables it can be because health can be complicated. Sure, I mean, you can get better just simply doing I don't even know, by taking some extra magnesium, it can be more relaxed. There's no doubt about it. But for people that are very, very sick, well, it can be very complicated, but there's always a reason why, and we test variables. So I went back. My rash is without a doubt, it's not huge, but it's probably the size of a quarter right around the side of my left eye. So I went back and I said, what are the new foods I introduced? Of course, a lot of them were healthy, right? But I was just trying different things. I talked about that. I was buying other companies' bars, like snack bars, of course, healthy ones, because we're developing one right now. And I want to basically say, this is popular. Why? What is the texture of this? How's the taste of this? And some I like, some I don't like. Most ingredients in bars I don't like. So those, of course, are just completely out the window in the first place. But I'm saying, okay, was I reacting to that? But there's one more thing, and that was a Christmas tree. We brought a Christmas tree into our house this year. We don't know what it was sprayed with, right? Well, you don't always know because it's keeping the bugs away, right? If you don't spray a tree, a lot of times those bugs are going to hatch when it's brought back indoors. That actually happened to us one year. We went to an all-natural place. We cut down the tree ourselves. And yes, I do replant. It is true. But that was that. Well, we've used fake trees in the past. This year, we wanted to get a small real tree. And my girls, we all picked it out. It was a lot of fun. We brought it in. A couple days later, the rash showed up. I don't know if it was that. So I just looked into some studies. And this study was very interesting. This was done by the World Health Organization. And the study found that indoor air quality dropped by a 6-fold factor over the 2 weeks where a Christmas tree is brought into your room. Millions of mold spores might be in the air. Remarkable, right? So it wasn't even thinking about that, but this could be the reason. What do? We got rid of the Christmas tree. We brought back in the fake one that we typically use, right? Because one thing is we don't always want to be cutting down the trees, but this year we wanted a real one, and we wanted it for my girls, and we said, okay, we're going to do it. We got it. We don't know if it was a culprit or not, but no matter what, we got it out of the room. Why? Because you have to go back to what your new variables were. So I'm going to go over that in a moment as well, but I want to keep going over a couple more issues as well with mold and looking now at these indoor toxins. Okay, so I'm just going to name them, and so I want you to be familiar with them because you can lab test these. I'll give you that option at the end. Not everyone will do that, but you can lab test these, okay? Alternaria, aspergillus, cladosporium, penicillium, and stachyboteres. There's no way I pronounced that last one correct. Spectotrees, something like that. I'll tell you right now, English sometimes never feels like my first language, but it's Stachybotrys. And so this one, a special name for black mold. This is being the most toxic. Well, breathing in black mold, whether it's in the vents blowing in heat or air conditioning at your work, or whether it's black mold growing down your basement, or like we had it just this past year from my neighbor upstairs. We live in a condo building. Their bathtub overflowed. It leaked down their wall above our bathroom ceiling and basically ruined the bathroom ceiling. So we said, okay, we need to have this replaced, did the whole insurance thing, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that took a couple months. They cut it out. We see mold growing all above. Why? Well, not just from that leak. It had a slow leak on the pipe for, who knows, years. Now we have mold in our house. My wife and I, obviously not excited about that. Luckily, we have an air filter, so I'm sure it was getting a lot of that. But all of these things can be in your ear and unsuspecting. That's why this is so, in my opinion, such a scary thing. But again, I don't want to scare you because there's always something that we can do about it. Let me share with you just a couple more facts before we get into the mold protocol of exactly what you're going to be doing. A couple other things is that right now, World Health Organization, 2009 study, so very, very recent, 2009 study, is that approximately in the United States, there was an overgrowth of dampness or mold in 50% of homes in the United States, okay? And the second one was this. In the United Kingdom, there was a 52% overgrowth of mold and dampness, where 24% had visible mold growth. And 58% of lower income homes, this is in the UK, lower income homes had a higher prevalence of dampness as well as mold. Pretty remarkable, right? So that means 1 out of 2. How do you know? At the end of the show, I'm going to give you very simple mold casings that you can put out in your home as well. Very inexpensive to test as well. And then, of course, you could test yourself. But again, I'm giving you multiple options because a lot of people won't test. They'll just want to go into a mold-based protocol. So again, if you're suffering from the muscle and joint pain, the upper respiratory issues, the sinus, the postnasal drip, even GERD, right? GERD is another one as well. One of the reasons you can have GERD is because you do have a little bit of postnasal drip dripping down through the esophagus into the stomach. So any respiratory issues, skin rashes, immune-based dysfunction, even fertility. I talked about that on 992, the previous podcast. Flu-like symptoms, hair loss, memory loss, brain fog, muscle aches. I can't recommend enough that we look into this. Now, what are some exact diseases that have actually been linked up? Well, GERD, if we're considering that a disease now, heart-based problems, cardiovascular problems, right, because of inflammation, very, very specific to mold, cancer, multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, and autoimmune-based disease. So here's what to look for. You can run a mold-based lab. There's a simple mold-based lab that I'm going to link up. There's a bunch of different companies that do it. We use a one through Great Plains. I'm going to link it up at StephenCabral.com/1048. This comes with, of course, the lab results, my interpretation and recommendations, and a call with one of my health coaches to take you through those recommendations. Now, of course, you can ask for a mold-based test with your functional medicine doctor if you do have one. And I do recommend one. If you're suffering from any of these symptoms, why not test? That's my highest recommendation. So simple urine-based test that you can do. But here's one other one. If you're looking on your blood work, this is not a fail-safe, but if you're looking at your annual blood work and you want to say, well, let me just check. Oftentimes people with allergies or asthma or mold or fungal-based overgrowth will have an elevation in what's called eosinophils, right? So look on your blood work and look under eosinophils, okay? That will be, it's part of the differential. It will break down your white blood cells, red blood cells. It will then go into eosinophils, basophils, etc., right? So eosinophils, I always relate to basically a Th2 dominance, but not always, but it shows some type of allergy, which is typically Th2. Th2 leads to a just chronic inflammatory response in the body. It's brutal. It's basically feeling run down all the time because your body's always inflamed. Now, a lot of people will try to give you the turmeric and things like that. I have no problem with that. But the problem is, what is turmeric doing for the underlying root cause conditions, right? Find out why you're inflamed. One of the reasons may be mold, right? But the other reason itself may be fungal overgrowth. That is why, in my practice, and I have to be honest with you, the majority of people that I see who also have issues with mold have candida or yeast fungal overgrowth in their gut. That's why if people are going to test for mold, I like that. I want to do that. But I would so much more recommend that we also run an organic acids test, even instead of in the beginning. And that's because if there's intestinal permeability and there's fungal overgrowth, well, there's probably mold issues. But also, if you have fungal overgrowth or even the biotoxins from candida going into your bloodstream, that can cause the same mold-based symptoms. And The other thing that you're going to get, which I didn't even mention, on your mold-based urine test, you'll see mycotoxins. The mycotoxins are now yeast, or I shouldn't say that. They are mold-based poisons. They're waste that's produced from mold in your body that actually is just as toxic, and here's why. A lot of people with an MTHFR gene mutation or a COMT issue or any type of liver detox-based breakdown in the body, right? They have some type of genetic marker for that where they simply don't detox as well of toxins out of their body, are oftentimes going to allow these mycotoxins from mold to just recirculate through the body because they do not remove them well enough. Again, this is not meant to scare you. I have this. What I do is I do my 21 day and I'll do my every night I do my 12-hour overnight fast. But every 12 weeks, I'm doing a functional medicine detox. So I don't need to worry about this on a daily basis. Got myself healthy, sealed up the leaky gut, right? Because you can't have fungus and mold just moving through that gut. So what we need to do is we can also then support our liver detox pathways with a functional medicine detox. I'm going to be pulling all this together with you at the end. Trust me. I know that this is a lot, but people have asked for this. They've said, give us the full mold protocol. I'm giving you everything that I do in my practice right now. I will give it all away and always will, right? Because how many people can I literally see in a week? 40? Like that's about it, right? I can't see more than that. Now, my health coaches see people as well. I read hundreds of labs a week, but my goal is to give all the information away. And this is all what I teach in the integrative health practitioner certification as well. Now, the organic acids test is taught in level 2, and some of these more toxicity-based ones will be taught in level 3. So here's what happens, though. A lot of people, they have their ongoing allergies, their ongoing candida overgrowth in the gut, their ongoing mold-based toxicity, but they don't always feel it. They start to feel it more, here's when. After they begin to eat aged foods or some alcohol, especially wine, if they have like a charcuterie platter with processed meats, or again, aged cheese, or it's a damp day, or they go down their basement or a place like that, a damp place, hiking in the fall where there's moldy leaves or in the early spring, all of those things, they can feel those mold-based symptoms. Interesting, right? Because when does that happen? Well, literally I wrote a book on this called The Rain Barrel Effect. Is when you're always there, right? You're just below the cusp of that rain barrel. And as you're exposed then to the aged foods, the fermented foods, the alcohol, it elevates your level of mold, right? Because that just increases the level of cytokines, increases the level of histamines, which kind of go one and the same with mold overall and allergies. And some of those foods can be molded themselves. I mean, just think of aged cheese. Think of the mold on aged cheese, right? All of those things. Or maybe you're more sensitive to grains. All of these things can begin to increase that, and that's when you feel it the most. Well, you're literally then living day to day right where that rain barrel is, right where it's just about to overflow. So I'm going to give you some of those foods to decrease right now, and then we'll begin to pull it all together of exactly how we take people through this mold-based protocol that you can do right at home for you or anyone that you love. Of course, you can pass on this information to them. So let's take you through some of that right now. So a lot of the foods that we're recommending people remove are anything that could also feed fungus and yeast candida. Now, we do that on the sensitive gut guide with the candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. So we're eliminating a lot of the high fructose-based foods. There's also a special diet, the anti-amylose-based foods as well. We don't always have to get as involved, only as needed. Remember, we only do as much as the person we're caring for needs. We don't want to go overboard, but we do eliminate a lot of the high sugar-based foods. We also eliminate grains for the first 3 weeks. And if a person feels phenomenally better, well, then we gently ease them back in with just some white rice at first. We see, how does that feel, right? How does that feel with less lectins, less things that can be reactive to it? If that feels okay, well, then we could try wild rice or something else like that. We try oats. We have to make sure that they're non-contaminated, that these do not contain gluten and that they do not contain any mold as well. And we say that, do you feel better, neutral, or worse? And if it's worse, well, we take them right back out again because maybe in the future we can do them, but we can't now. We also take away a lot of the processed-based foods a lot of the boxed-based foods, the ready-made cereals, anything like that. We take away the dairy-based foods, the ice cream, and anything that can feed the yeast. We also take away all of the aged or hard cheeses and any of the fermented, even yogurt, right? And fermented kefir for right now. Anything that can feed yeast and candida. We eliminate, these are all for a 21-day elimination. We eliminate alcohol. We eliminate all types of vinegar. Again, anything that can feed the yeast. We remove mushrooms from the diet. Okay, again, not forever, but we remove them, at least temporarily. We remove all of the smoked meats or aged meats. And we remove all of the dried base fruit, anything dried. So it's easy. Let me help you by doing this because we do this for our histamine allergy clients as well. Anything that's aged, smoked, or fermented. Aged, smoked, fermented is eliminated. All right, so just ask yourself, because again, you won't always have me, you won't always have your practitioner working with you when you're trying to make a decision, but I like to give you the macro, right? So is it aged? Has it been smoked for food? And is it fermented? We'll eliminate those for now. And then we start to, but of course we can focus on all the good things. Again, if you are paleo, you can still have your wild-caught fish, and you can have your grass-fed and pasture-based animal-based products, pasture-based eggs. You can still do your cruciferous-based vegetables like your broccoli and your cauliflower. So those are all okay. And if you're on our Candida protocol, we eliminate onions and garlic for the first 6 weeks. But if you're just doing our mold protocol, we actually recommend garlic because garlic is great at killing mold as well. It's great at killing fungi at the same time. So you might say, well, why don't you recommend it then in your Candida program? Well, here's why. It can also act as a prebiotic. So all we're doing is we're saying we've covered everything. So we are adding it back in, but towards the latter half of the 12-week CBO protocol. So super simple. That's how we do it. We lay it all out with the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. All right. So again, but also stay away. A couple other things. I just want you to make sure that you stay away from anything that's just bought in bulk. Be very careful of peanuts and walnuts and cashews, anything that could be grown in bulk and also that could contain aflatoxin. Peanuts, cashews being a lot of those as well. Walnuts can be one too, just to be honest. Walnuts can be one, coffee, and a lot of those bagged grains. So what can you eat? Well, you can eat most healthy fats. Olive oil, avocado can be totally fine as long as it's not overly ripe, right? Very, very important to look at. Overly ripe bananas, we won't be doing that as well either. We are going to do fresh lemon and lime instead of vinegar, so that will be our acid. We'll be definitely having any of the fruit on the list that is qualified, and that would be like your blueberries, and it could be other things as well. Many, many fruit on the list, just the lower fructose-based fruit. And if you need the nuts, if you need the seeds, I typically recommend the flax seeds, the pumpkin seeds, the sunflower seeds for right now, or to use as a nut butter if you need to do that. Okay, so now let's move into the direct protocol. This is going to go over our 25-minute mark. I already have, but this is everything we do. I need to put into one podcast, right? So here's what we do. If someone suspects mold, we can do two things. We can lab test them and we can lab test their home. So in episode 992, we gave you mold plates. They're not a fail-safe, but all you do is put them up for a couple hours uncovered, right? And then you cap them and you put them in your closet, just in a dark place for 3 days, 5 days, a week, 10 days or so. Just look every 3 days or 5 days to see if there's mold growing. If mold starts to grow in that container, not very high likelihood, you have mold in your house. There's no doubt about it. But then this company, and again, I have no affiliation with this company, they'll also test it for spores as well, because a lot of these spores, at least initially, are invisible before they start to proliferate and grow. Okay, what else could you do? Well, you can also test your home with the IICRC. This is the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration. Okay, there's another one called the NORMI, NORMI, National Organization of Remediators and Mold Inspectors. This is a big one as well. I'm going to put both of those company names and their fun acronyms at stevencabral.com/1048. That's the hub for everything today. Okay, so then the lab test that I recommend is this. I can't recommend enough an organic acids test as well as the mold toxicity test. So both of those will allow you to look at it from two fronts. One, do you have yeast and candida and fungal-based overgrowth in your gut? And is it moving into the bloodstream? Okay, that's one urine test. The other one is actually from mold biotoxins or mycotoxins, basically the waste being produced by mold in your body, plus the mold itself. Because sometimes the mold is harder to detect. That's why we always look for its waste. Now, depending on what shows up, we will do this. If you don't have mold and fungal overgrowth in your body, but you do in your home, we can play it safe and still do the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol and the mold protocol. Or we do this. We just make sure that we get you a good quality air purifier that you then use in your home and replace any sheetrock or tile or anything that you can't get that mold out of. You should be able to get it off tile, but just make sure you scrape it out of the grout, that you cut out the sheetrock, that you do whatever you need to get rid of that mold. And it is recommended that you do that with a mold remediator, usually covered by insurance. And the reason is they're professionals, and you also don't want to breathe that in. Super important. Okay, so the 2 air purifiers, I gave a bunch before. And again, just go to stephencabral.com/podcasts, and you can search anything you want there. If you search air purifiers, you're going to find all of the different ones that I recommended. Now, let's see if I have it right here. I know I did it last week on the podcast. That would be, maybe I'm doing it this week. Well, either way, I'm going to give it to you right now. There's 2 air filters that just seem to be, they just do a better job. It's, to be honest. Again, I don't have any affiliation with these companies. But the air filters, one is the Allen. That's the one that I have, ALLEN. And I'm going to link that up. They came out with a new design that we just bought. We have the old design from about 7 years ago, and we just bought the new design as well. Then there's another one. I believe it's called the Health IQ, but I don't want to give you bad information, so I'm going to find that out right now. But this is what you'll do. It's obviously never a bad idea to have an air filter in your home, to be able to not filter out just mold, but whether you have a pet dander, all of those things. So let's find out. It's called the Allen, ALEN, not 2 L's, Breathe Smart, and it comes in many different sizes, about 400 square feet, 700 square feet, and then I think even larger. And then I want to make sure, here it is right here, the IQ Air. This one's a little bit more expensive, another couple $100 more. This one is actually partnered with, I believe, the National Lung Institute. Again, don't quote me on that, but I know that they are partnered with the United States equivalent of that. And that's a great one as well. That's more industrial based. It's very, very strong. 1,000 square feet, I believe. They're both great. But honestly, get a filter. Make sure you're removing those things from your home. Okay, next up, whether you find the yeast and fungal overgrowth and mold overgrowth or not, we want to support the liver detox pathways. So I can't recommend enough first doing even just a 7-day functional medicine detox. Your functional medicine doctor may have one. If not, just you can use the Dr. Ball Detox. It's the same one that I use in my practice. Super easy to use. It's only 3 products, only takes a week. It will also take you through my elimination diet. You'll begin to probably start to feel better really quickly on that. That will be a dead giveaway that a lot of the foods that you're eating are feeding that mold. Okay. So then watch for a reduction in symptoms. That will tell you without a doubt that you need to be on a diet closer to this one. Now, the last part is this, is that if you ran the organic acids test and you saw that you had yeast and fungal-based overgrowth, or you ran a stool test and you saw you had bacterial-based overgrowth, complete the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, all right? If you can't afford to run the organic acids test and do the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, of course, I recommend doing the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol because there's not going to be harm in doing it. And if you find it in the lab test, you're going to have to run it anyway. So I like the lab results. To be honest with you, I'm a numbers guy. I am more science-based. I want the data in front of me. But if someone asks me that question, of course, I'm going to say, how can I help this person the most? And that's through the protocol. After you complete the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, if you found yeast and fungal overgrowth, you'll then complete the mold protocol. And the reason is your detox pathways will be open up to a greater degree. You'll have removed the yeast and fungal overgrowth in your gut, and you will then have moved on to the heal and seal, the CBO finisher. What does that do? Well, it seals up intestinal permeability, the leaky gut, which will then cause the immune system to have to do less work. Why would it cause the immune system to do less work? Is because there are less proteins and allergens moving through your gut wall. And that means your immune system will not be as activated. And then it can begin to clean the mold issues in your blood to a greater degree. Okay. So what if you don't have yeast or fungal-based overgrowth in your gut? You did an organic acids test. Fine. Then we can move right on to the mold protocol, right? Right onto that mold protocol. And that's great. So the mold protocol that we offer I'm going to take you through it exactly. And I don't even know, let's see if there are the equilibrium products. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 products, okay? And only 2 of the products are equilibrium nutrition. And the reason I mention that is because I want you to know that I operate at the highest level of integrity, and I only recommend products that I feel the very best in the world. And that's why Equilibrium Nutrition does what it does well, but also these other companies do a great job. For example, in month 1, I'll take you month 1 by month 1. We'll talk about the Equilibrium Nutrition FM Detox first. Why would I use our functional medicine detox and give you 2 bottles of this? The reason is this. The FM Detox does what? It opens up those liver pathways. So let's say that you have the genetic-based issue, but you don't even know it. Well, we're giving your liver the support that it needs to be able to take the mycotoxins, the biotoxins, and all the dead mold, all the mold that's broken down in your body, and remove it through the liver, into the intestines, and then out. Okay? Now, a lot of people ask, can I use bentonite clay or charcoal as a binder? And I say, if you're not having 1 to 2 bowel movements per day, you need to work on that first. If you're having 1 to 2 bowel movements per day to make sure that you effortlessly move all of this through your body, then great. And again, you can use the intestinal cleanse. We recommend that actually after the first 4 weeks. But if you still want to use a binder, I do not have a problem with it. My recommendation, though, is bentonite clay. Now, we're already providing you with that coming up in the protocol as well. So, meaning you can use the bentonite clay as a great binder instead of the charcoal. Why would I recommend that? I don't have a problem with charcoal. Here's the issue. Charcoal is an aggravator for a lot of people with histamine issues and cytokine issues. A lot of people with mold issues have high cytokine, histamine, and allergies and asthma. And you're taking basically a charcoal, right? A charcoal food, which they already is what? Smoked. And these people, the people in my practice, again, this is not just research-based. It's great to read the research, but you have to work with a practitioner that works with real people. Again, not just me. I'm not saying that. But you have to understand is not everything from the research plays out in the real world. And that's because we don't live in isolation. So people with allergies and charcoal, they don't mix. But bentonite clay seems to work absolutely fantastically well. Okay, so again, our intestinal cleanse includes the bentonite clay-based product, and we just upgraded it, and so really, really excited about that. And again, that's through another company that I love. So in month 1, we're giving you the FM Detox to open up those liver detox pathways. We're then giving you a product called Rapid Immune Boost by Herb Farm. And again, these may change in the future, and that's why I hate even giving you the names right now, because if in 6 months from now or a year from now, I find products that I like better, I switch to those, right? Why would they be better? Well, better because there's a dosage that I much more prefer. The research has been upgraded, or I can find a product that's even more synergistic that includes even more of what I'm looking for. But why am I looking at, and I'm not going to name the products anymore, but I will name the ingredients that they have in them because it's what I look for. Remember, product names don't matter. And I know that sounds probably not like the smartest thing for me saying that because I formulate for Equilibrium Nutrition, but the most important thing is the quality of the product. Well, Herb Farm, I do have to say, Herb Farm's a great company. So I just want to talk highly of them because I love great companies, and that's the truth. Well, they have Golden Seal, and they have something else that I look for very specifically, and that was ginger and yarrow. Now, the whole product contains wild indigo, black elderberry, ginger, horseradish, yerba santa. It contains osha root, golden seal, echinacea. Absolutely amazing product. Wild crafted, organic, of course, the best. But it contained 3 things that I needed in this mold protocol. That was golden seal, that was ginger, and that was yarrow. All of those things have been shown to be unbelievably effective at killing and destroying mold. Now, the other things in this product do what? Well, they help to boost the immune system. They boost it in a way that will allow your white blood cells to better find, locate, tag, and remove mold from the body. So, huge fan of that product. Okay, next product that I want to go over, probably one that no one has ever heard of and that very few mold protocols contain. So, meaning like if you look at a lot of functional medicine doctors, they have mold protocols, and I don't talk negatively about them at all because they can be absolutely great products. But I looked for something very, very specific when I was going after this product. And it was something called rosmarinic acid. And very, very interesting. So I was doing my research, of course, many, many years ago on mold. And I was looking at this thing called rosmarinic acid. And I was wondering, this is being shown to be really effective, really effective in the research against mold. Why aren't there more products like it? And I couldn't find a product with it. It was pretty amazing, actually, to look for this product that essentially comes from rosemary, right? So natural product, natural herb. And there was a product, again, I won't name the name because it might change in a month or 2 months or 6 months, but you'll see it on the website. So I'm just going to link it up today at 1048. Okay, rosmarinic acid. You probably won't have seen that anywhere. Check out the research on rosmarinic acid and mold from rosemary. Remember, fantastic. And I will show that company's product right there as well. Just a little bit more to go over with you. And now I want to take you through the second month. So that was month 1. All right. We use that. Those are gentler based products. We're boosting the immune system and we're opening up liver detox pathways. Works fantastically well. Now, usually halfway through, we're going to do the intestinal cleanse. That's optional. Okay. Optional to do the intestinal cleanse halfway through. Your choice. I know not everyone can afford it. And so what I'm going to have you do is just make sure that you are having that 1 to 2 bowel movements per day. Now, in month 2, we increase our strength a little bit. We're using glutathione. We're using liposomal glutathione. This is glutathione bound to phospholipids, which allows for greater absorption. Glutathione, I talked about this on previous Friday reviews on our Super Nutrient of the Week, is the most powerful antioxidant out there, essentially. It's what our liver is able to manufacture out of sulfur-based amino acids, such as glycine and cysteine. Absolutely fantastic. And then we use colloidal silver, but we use a colloidal silver that's at a specific particle size. Okay, the particle size matters. And this is called Sovereign Silver. This is the best product that I've seen so far, so I'm just going to recommend them. There are no cases of any issues with Sovereign Silver. It's exactly what they state on the website. We're using it at a normal dosage, but colloidal silver can be absolutely fantastic at killing fungus, bacteria, and viruses, okay? And then we're pulling out all of the stops with the strongest gut-based product we have that also works on mold, fungus, and bacteria, and it's called GI Balance. It's a brand new product that we've been using in our practice now for 7 years. We brought it online this month called GI Balance. It contains the oral forms, the safe oral forms of essential oils. We have thyme oil in there. We've got clove oil, and we have oregano oil. So when you look at that, those are some of the most powerful antifungal herbs in its oil-based form, so it's concentrated, that they've used for thousands of years in Ayurvedic, traditional Chinese medicine, and many other forms of medicine. So that is it. That is our entire mold-based protocol. It comes with a list of exactly how to use these products, and I'm going to link it all up today at stevencabral.com/1048. So I know that was a big podcast, but that answers hopefully everything that you have on mold. My recommendation is this. First, lab test yourself. Organic acids test and mold test. Test your home with one of the mold plates, or you can have a mold remediator come to your home. They will test the areas for free, typically for free. I can't quote you on that, right? Because if they find it, then they get hired, of course, to remove the mold. Okay, really, really important. The next is this. Get an air purifier, if it fits within your budget, of course. I will link up the air purifiers that I recommend that are strong enough to remove mold and other contaminants, 99.99% of contaminants from the air. The third is do a functional medicine detox, such as the Dr. Cabral detox, to open up and support your liver pathways, to be able to remove mold on your own without even using anything else. And the fourth is this. If you came back high on yeast or fungal overgrowth on your organic acids test, complete the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. And as you're finishing up with the Heal and Seal, the CBO finisher, which is the healthy gut support and the probiotics, because mold doesn't like probiotics, then you will complete the mold-based protocol. We've been using it now in our practice for quite some time. We get fantastic results, and I just wanted to share that with you today. So thank you so much. Hopefully this was helpful, and as always, if it was, please do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.